Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you can all hear me okay. My name is Nabil Safdar. I'm the current president of the Islamic Medical Association of North America, IMANA. Before we get started, let's open up with a quick dua, a quick prayer, the Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Malik Yawmiddin, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. So thank you for joining us. I don't know what it's like where you are, but here it's getting cooler and cooler and the nights are getting chillier. And as the nights turn chillier, we can't help but crave cozying up with some warm comfort food as we continue to socially distance as appropriate because of the pandemic. Food is one of the single greatest unifiers in cultures throughout the world. We're excited to bring into your kitchens and hearts recipes that help you build a connection with those halfway around the world. Dig out your pots and pans and join us as we welcome Chef Mirna Bamieh of the Palestinian Hosting Society, making Rummanieh. The Palestinian Hosting Society, and I would encourage you to go to their website. If you Google Palestinian Hosting Society, it'll come up, and it's palestinianhostingsociety.com. Was founded in 2017. We'll hear more about it from our guest tonight. It was an extension of her art practice that often looked at the politics of disappearance and memory production. Chef Mirna creates artwork that unpacks social concerns and the limitations in contemporary political dilemmas, and reflects on the conditions that characterize Palestinian communities. After an intensive research period for each project, the collective creates a menu that is shared over a long table for from 40 to 60 or more guests, and dishes are carefully selected to create spaces of reflection upon socio-political realities, attitudes, and historical practices, and even the suppressed elements of society. So enough of me rambling on. I think the evening would be much better if we got prepared some warm, delicious food, and that you could hear from Chef Mirna Bamieh. Chef Mirna?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna Bamieh, and I'm an artist and a chef, and I have a project called Palestine Hosting Society. And this project started in 2017, actually, but a year before that, in 2016, I was asking myself questions. How can I contribute to society, and how I contribute to creating change as part of my art practice? Because until 2016, my work was mostly in video and video installations, and I wanted to have my practice in art as a place where I can learn more, where I can understand Palestinianness in new ways that are not exhausted by political rhetorics, and a way where we can connect to each other as communities, as Palestinian communities and as citizens of the world. So I asked myself a question, like, what is that I like as much as making art? And it was food. So after that question, and after I realized my passion for food making, not only as a cook, but as well as a researcher, because my work in art involves lots of research usually. So after that, I went to culinary school, and I was learning to get a culinary degree. And I was really frustrated and disappointed that the way I was taught handles or targets Palestinian kitchen in a very flat way. Just, the street food, the falafel, the hummus, the msakhan, maqloube, and there was lots of richness that I was missing in those classes. And then I was looking at restaurants menu, and I realized that restaurant menus reflect that as well. The section of Palestinian kitchen in Palestine for Palestinian dishes is very limited, and it's very it stops at the basic. So I knew I wanted to understand why is this happening. We have such rich and diverse kitchen that is unfortunately being appropriated by Israelis to be showcased to the world as their own national dishes. And I felt that we as Palestinians need to reclaim this knowledge, and we need to talk about it more. We need actually to learn our recipes because unfortunately there are many recipes that people have forgotten about, that they don't know that this is part of their kitchen, of their Palestinian kitchen. And that is due to many reasons. Some of them are related to the political situation that had forced people to leave their hometowns and become diasporic Palestinians in different parts of the world away from Palestine, but as well even in Palestine, the restrictions of movement is very brutal, and there's checkpoints to be crossed, and there should be special permits for people living in the West Bank to go to Jerusalem or to go to other parts of Palestine. And throughout time, that led to this disconnection in our knowledge about other areas outside our accessibility. So people in the West Bank, they don't know much about the kitchen in Galilee. People in Galilee don't know much about the kitchen in Hebron. And because of the richness of our landscape and the rich history that we have different regional dishes and different ways and techniques of cooking that are different from the desert to the sea, to the center, to the north, from south. So unfortunately, we lost this knowledge. We lost this wisdom of the ancestors that had really preserved them through art, preserved their lives for a long time. And for me, I wanted to learn and relearn this knowledge because it's my generation that lost most of this knowledge. The mothers, the generation before me, they were busy with survival mostly, and they lost the knowledge that happened after the traumatic event of Nakba in 1948. So for me, I wanted to go back and collect this huge and rich archival knowledge of dishes, of food practices, that for me, I felt very important to be brought back to the present moment. So we learn from it. We as well not only learn cooking and smells and dishes and stories, but as well we expand our sense of Palestinianness. We connect to the land again. We learn the names of the wild edible plants and the dishes that could be prepared from the mountains. We learn beautiful food combinations. So for me, I wanted all this to be part of my work in art. So I created this project. And what I do basically is I collect recipes that are on the verge of disappearance, and I share this knowledge on different social media platforms, but as well over dinner tables, walks. I did many tables. Performance dinners are like long tables with lots of people where I'm the storyteller and I tell the story of those dishes, the research. There's usually a base menu that that focuses on a certain topic. Like Nablus, when I did the research in Nablus, I went to Nablus for 2 months. I had lots of meetings with cooks, with grandmas, with men as well, cooking desserts. I tried to understand the history of Nablus, the changes in the city, who lived in Nablus in different times, how did they contribute with their own kitchen to Nablus, for instance, and then I created a menu. And this menu was presented over a ticketed dinner, so everybody is everybody can buy a ticket. And then I'm there presenting the food and telling the story of the research and telling the stories of people and trying to create those associations between food and history and politics and change. And for me, it's always the dishes that people, even Palestinians, do not know much about. And for me, it's this moment of encounter of a Palestinian with a dish that he or she didn't know that is part of her kitchen, that's always inspirational, and it always encourages me to want to learn more and to share more, and to celebrate this beautiful kitchen that we have. Other tables that we did was the Jerusalem table, the Old City of Jerusalem table, that tries to tell the story of the Old City from Ottoman times till now, just from food practices. We created walks and tours in the Old City, food walks that are more historic. And we created a map that people can take with them and take the tour themselves. And now I'm more focused in creating more community tables, smaller ones in Palestine. After the research for 30-40 people, like now we were preparing for the one in Nazareth before COVID happened. And on the other hand, I'm focused on creating tables outside Palestine, because for me it's important that the international community hears about our story in a new way, in a way that they can listen again and not, like hear again the same way of how Palestinians are being presented and showcased in media. So maybe we have a look at the video now, and I will tell you more about the dish. The dish is very special. I chose Rummanieh for our session today because my family is originally from Jaffa. And this dish is originally from Jaffa. It's cooked mostly in Lid and Jaffa, so two coastal cities. And unfortunately, this dish has been almost forgotten at the present times and preserved in Gaza. And that was the story of many dishes that with the forced exile of people, of Palestinians from the coastal areas, they went to Gaza, which is the closest city to Jaffa and Lid and Haifa and Akka. And it was preserved there because of the siege and because Gazans love food, and they kept it alive. They added some different ingredients to the dish that we will learn more together in the video, but it's a very, very tasty dish and has a very special story in how it was preserved, but as well in the tastes that we should not lose from our kitchen. I wish I can share this dish with all of you, and you can and you to taste the beautiful and very special combination of eggplants and lentils and the pomegranate juice. Both recipes are equally delicious, so I really encourage you to try it with tahini and without tahini, and really discover this very special taste note that comes out of those ingredients being mixed together. The story of the dish is part of the special taste of it. The way it was moved and preserved from Jaffa and led to Gaza, and how the Gazans added their very own beloved taste of the hot chili, the dill seeds. That's very that they use it a lot in many dishes, and the red tahini, which is another ingredient that is disappearing, unfortunately. And as I said, it's very similar to the white tahini, but the degree of roastiness of the sesame gives it a beautiful red color, but as well as a very distinguished nutty flavor. Unfortunately, red tahini is disappearing from our kitchen. In Gaza, it's still produced, but we cannot reach Gaza, and we cannot have even ingredients from Gaza. In the Old City of Jerusalem, there's two tahini mills that actually survived and are still creating tahini in the old method, cold pressing, and they make red tahini, but people don't know what to cook with it. So I hope they will still produce tahini, the red one. And yes, if you have any questions, if you want to ask me about the recipe or about other dishes, then please feel free to do that.
Chef Mirna, thank you so much. That made me very hungry. I can't wait to try cooking it myself. Or maybe I'll get someone who's a better cook to help me. There's a lot of interest in the pomegranate molasses. Can you tell us about that? It seems like a lot of us are not familiar with it, or if there's a term that we should be using so that if we're looking for it, or how to prepare it.
Well, you can find pomegranate molasses in many stores. In Turkish stores, you can find it when you're outside Palestine. In Lebanese stores, because they use it a lot. In the Syrian shops. And it's basically a pomegranate juice that has been boiling over low heat for a long time. So it's thick and reduced, and it has this really nice, sweet, sour flavor of pomegranate, but really dense. So it gives this depth to the flavor. And we added to salads. You added to Rummanieh. It's very delicious. It's delicious with meat because, as I said, it has this really nice flavor of sweetness, sourness. That are very deep. So yeah, I encourage you to try it if you have not tried it before. You can even make it at home, but to create like 1 liter of pomegranate molasses, you need 15 liters to boil 15 liters and reduce them of pomegranate juice. So sometimes it's easier to buy that if you can get access to really good quality pomegranate molasses. And molasses is a general term. There's in Palestine, we have carob molasses that is made from carob, from kharoob. We have the grape molasses, and Hebron Khalil is very known for the grape molasses. And there's different uses and different dishes for each kind of molasses.
I was reading and learning more about your work with the Palestinian Hosting Society, and one thing that struck me as you were talking earlier is the intergenerational component of it. You even said, I speak to chefs and I speak to grandmothers, you know what I mean? And I would imagine there are a lot of younger people involved in it too. And so it's not just about the stories of Palestinian people and their kitchen externally, but it's also sharing from one generation to the next. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the reactions that people have, whether they're from our respected elders who maybe thought nobody would ever take an interest in Rummanieh and how it's made, versus how younger people who are interacting with some of these dishes the first time, how they connect to the stories.
Well, when I go and look for people, when I want to, like, for instance, when I go to Belin, a village in Galilee, and I try to find people like the older generation to learn more. Like, I'm asking questions about recipes that I don't know yet, so I have to be I have to ask the right questions, and I have to find the right people who like to share. But as well, I have to go through this process of, why do you need to know those recipes? They're so old. Sometimes they tell me, the last time I had this dish is when I was 10 years old. And then we cook it together. And then you see their whole faces change, because there's someone who is appreciating and asking for this knowledge that they thought is invaluable. But then they realize that they have a treasure of knowledge that I want to learn about, and that my generation is very interested in them. So that moment for me is very special. It's because I reached for a piece of information or a recipe or a story that, if I did not reach this person through this project at the right time, I would have not knew it. And fortunately, my generation now is being more and more interested in traditional ways of being. So there's more people going back to farming, to cooking, to preserving heirloom seeds, to understanding how what Palestine was about and what Palestinianness is all about before the occupation. Part of that, I mean, knowledge is power, and if we regain this knowledge, we will be more proud Palestinians, and we will know it will not be just, you know, a slogan like, oh, I'm Palestinian. No, actually, I know about the history. I know about our dishes. And when I have this knowledge, it cannot be stolen from me. It cannot be taken from me. I'll be able to defend it. I'll be able to say to the world, no, this dish is Palestinian and we have a rich Palestinian kitchen, especially that we are under occupation. And what occupation and colonization does to the oppressed and the colonized is that they try to make them less knowledgeable and less proud of their heritage. So they try to make them feel as if they are not worthy, they do not have a culture, they do not have a history, and this way they can break them, they can take over them, they can as well take their culture easily. And for me, I want to contribute through my work against this, and I want people, like whoever can know about those recipes, activate them and cook them again, know the stories of those recipes, because for me, the voices that come out of the Palestinian kitchens is as important as the stories that come out of other places. It's the voice of the mother, the grandmother, the female, the one who could sustain a family through hardships and wars. And we need to reclaim this indigenous knowledge in order to survive the times to come, because I think we're coming to times of scarcity, and this know-how, how to create your own pantry, your moune, how to preserve food throughout time so it doesn't go bad. How can I cook from simple ingredients when I don't have accessibility to go out and reach for, like, you know, all the unseasonal vegetables that are throughout all the years outside. Like, what's this knowledge of seasons, of food that nurtures your soul and not just your stomach? So yes.
Well, thank you. That was beautiful, and again, it's amazing how food can be such a great medium for sharing all the richness that you described in the history, the shared culture, the traditions, and the relationships between each other. And that's something that I think those of us at IMANA have benefited from. I have not been fortunate yet to be to Palestine yet, but Dr. Mehr, who we're going to hear from next, has been several times. Many of you have met or know Dr. Ismail Mehr. He is the head of our IMANA Medical Relief, the major program that's treated over 2.5 million patients and people around the world in over 30 countries, including in Palestine. So Ismail, can I hand it over to you for the next portion of the program?
Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum, blessings everyone. Mirna, thank you so much. That was amazing. I'm hungry now and I haven't had dinner. So I'm looking forward to eating. I wish I could have that Rummanieh. You know, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about IMANA and the work we do. And then I wanted to just, we're going to share a little video of some of the work we recently did in Gaza last year. And then I wanted to come back, and something that Mirna really talked about was, you know, I wanted to take some of my time and share my experiences both in the West Bank and in Gaza. I've been fortunate enough to have been to Palestine, I believe 4 or 5 times now. I've been all over the West Bank, from Ramallah to Nablus to Tulkarem to Jericho. You name it, I've been there in the West Bank. And then I've been fortunate enough to be in Gaza twice. I was just there last year. And that's a story I wanted to share with all of you about a girl named Gufran. And we'll be sharing a video about her. But before I go there, I wanted to, some of you may not be familiar with IMANA. We're one of the lead organizations in the world that does medical relief. We've been to over 34 countries. And I've shared this before, there's so many great organizations that do such great work around the world, from education, from food, water, sanitation. But you know what? There's only a handful of organizations that provide healthcare. Often in these underdeveloped countries, countries which are been ravaged by conflict, political turmoil, natural disasters, healthcare is often forgotten. And we here at the Islamic Medical Association North America sort of have taken the torch in doing the leadership around the world in providing healthcare. As Dr. Sufder mentioned, over 2.5 million people have received free healthcare from us. We have constructed over 30 hospitals and medical centers around the world. We have emergency response teams that travel when there's, at the drop of a dime, when there's a natural calamity. Like, for example, we were in the Philippines after the typhoon hit a few years back. I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago. We were there within 3 days. We were in Haiti 4 days after the earthquake in 2010. We're in the Rohingya camps every single day. Our teams are traveling and working in the Rohingya camps and in Jordan for Syrian refugees, and of course, within Palestine. My first time going to Palestine was in 2009 during operation the conflict or the war that was taking place in Gaza. I was there leading an IMANA team while the war was going on. So as we're all coming towards the end of the year, we've gone through a tough 2020. But here in the United States, as I mentioned last week, we were enjoying Syrian food. We've just passed Thanksgiving, and it's our time to be thankful for what we do have. I encourage everyone to take some time. You can text to 44321. You can go to www.imana.org. Be it $5, $10, $100, it's going to go towards making a difference around the world. And what I always have found, especially when we travel to areas of conflict, people are surprised when we go to Palestine and Gaza. They're like, you're Americans and you're coming here. You actually know about us or you care about us. And I've always found that the best diplomacy we can do as Americans is through our work, through our lending a hand. And it truly makes a difference in perceptions that we have of the places we're going, but more importantly, the places that we go to help as Americans, of the perception they have of us. So I'm going to share a little video here. This was last year when we were in Gaza. We performed, I believe, 41 surgeries, reconstructive plastic surgeries. And as Mirna was mentioning, it's very difficult to get food and things that are daily needs in and out of Gaza because of the embargo. Healthcare is completely handcuffed inside of Gaza. The facilities are doing their best, but they're not able to get in the medications, the equipment, the supplies. For example, in Gaza, it's almost 2.5 million people, I believe, the population. There's one CT scanner in the whole area, which is an old CT scanner that breaks down. And many of us live in metropolitan areas where there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of CT scanners within our own metropolitan area. So we were working on taking care of patients doing reconstructive surgery, and we had this young little girl come in. She was about 2 years old with her parents, and she had this scaly skin. It almost looked like fish skin, so, to make it sort of in layman's term. And myself and Dr. Khalid Zahir, we were banging our heads against the wall, like, what is this? And the problem that the family actually came in for was her hands, her fingers were all sort of glued together. She would not and never would be able to use her hands, just because there wasn't plastic surgeons or hand reconstructive surgeons there that knew exactly how to carry this out to get her usage of her hand. Luckily, Dr. Zahir is a plastic surgeon. I'm an anesthesiologist. We were doing cases together, and he was like, I can free up these fingers, we can use them and work on them. And as we're talking to the family, we understood that she was born like this. We talked to some of our dermatology friends very quickly, sent some pictures and texts, in the world of instant sort of communication. And we realized that she had a very, very rare genetic disorder called lamellar ichthyosis. People are born with this. It's extremely, extremely rare. You're going to see her in the video, and I think we have a picture of her. Maybe we can share. And so we realized when we look at her eyes, her eyelids were not also closing. And then we started talking to the mother, and she explained to us that they have to, every few minutes, half hour or so, they have to put drops in her eyes so that they stay moist. And I'm thinking to myself, and we did the first surgery on her hands, and Dr. Zahir was like, I don't know what we could do for her eyes. And I sort of kept after him saying, we have to figure this out. We're here for a week. She's going to go blind. this girl will go blind because she's not going to be able to protect her eyes. And, we keep them moist when we close our eyelids and whatnot. So, alhamdulillah, we worked out a plan, and we 4 days later also operated on her eyes. From my understanding now, she's doing much better. Her eyes are safe. She can use her hands. And, without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our headquarters to share the video of Gufran, because this is the work that we do on your behalf, on the donor's behalf, when we travel to places like Gaza, West Bank, Sudan, Haiti, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So thank you all. Where this poor family in Gaza, where her mom and dad work around the clock taking care of the baby, spending all of their income. And remember, Gaza, your unemployment is over 60%. Everyone lives below the poverty line. But these parents, they were doing what anyone would do for their child, trying to help her survive. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom that he puts in us as healers, we came up with a plan and we operated on little Gufran. She can use her eyelids now. She's gonna be able to keep her eyesight. Her parents were smiling with joy. They were making dua and prayers for all of you that have donated for us. I ask you this Ramadan to think of Gufran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us an opportunity to take away our sins, to do something for someone else by giving our zakat and sadaqah. So I ask you all to think of IMANA Medical Relief this Ramadan. Gufran will use her hands, and the sadaqah that you gave every time she picks up something to eat, every time she does something with those hands. And as she gets older and has her own family and she can take care of her own family because these hands are working now, will be a sadaqah jariyah for those of you who donated towards that mission. Brings back a lot of memories of my trip to Gaza, my trip in 2009. So that's the work that we're doing. There's thousands of Gufrans, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of them that IMANA has treated around the world. But there's millions more who need our help. And, inshallah, here at IMANA, we're committed. We recently just returned a team from northern Pakistan that was carrying out a medical mission there. We have a mission scheduled for 2021. Despite the current concerns and restrictions with COVID, we're finding ways where we can be safe, our teams can be safe, and the work must continue because, you and I, we're privileged to be in developed countries where we might have access to healthcare, have access to be able to have our loved ones taken care of. But in the developing countries and places riddled with conflict, those needs remain, and together we're gonna do that. So some of the work that we've done specifically in Palestine, it's Palestine is one of my most favorite, if not it is the most favorite place that I enjoy going. The people, you met Mirna here, they're just so full of energy. Despite all the challenges that they face, there's this true love, and there's energy and there's resilience. Daily life there without electricity, without running water, conflict, sometimes lack of safety, but the resilience to live on and to persevere and to adapt is amazing. And that's what we do as healers when we go to Palestine and be it the West Bank or Gaza. We adapt the way we carry out medicine and learn so much more about ourselves as healers while we're on these missions. So our first time working inside Palestine was in 2009, as I mentioned earlier, after the war. And then soon after that, as an organization, something that IMANA is very proud of is that we don't go to one place and then say, okay, we're not returning again, or we did something for them, this community or this country. Now we're going to move on to the next project. We remain committed to where we've gone, wherever we've stepped foot. We remain committed to this day. So those 34 countries that I've mentioned around the world, we remain committed to them. Over 200 projects are actively going on right now around the world that IMANA is supporting with your donations. So we did the same for Palestine and for Gaza. 2011, we procured $50,000 in medicines. With our ability and our contacts and our sort of the accolades that we received from UNICEF, the United Nations, the U.S. State Department, WHO health organizations, and the Red Cross, our work has been recognized around the world. And this has allowed for us to be able to obtain the appropriate permits and approvals to be able to get into places like Palestine, because there's a lot of red tape to do. So we've been able to move medicines and people and supplies in and out, and we continue to do that. Right now, during the COVID crisis in Gaza, we have procured 170,000 masks, 3,000 liters of what we know here in the U.S. as our hand gel sanitizers, and that's being distributed within Gaza. Last year, we started a new surgical program in Nablus, which is in the West Bank, northern area, of bariatric surgery. Those of you who are healthcare providers or no healthcare providers, or people know that morbid obesity is a significant problem and an impact. So we started a bariatric surgical program in Palestine. I mean, just imagine, we had a surgical team go there and we'll be returning and is teaching the local physicians and empowering them and bringing healthcare capabilities to places where you would never imagine that you'd be carrying out such procedures and surgeries. Our work continues throughout Palestine. It's gonna only increase. Right now, I've already been approved for a permit to travel to Gaza, actually from this month until the middle of April. So I'm hopeful and praying that some of the travel restrictions in and out of Israel and Palestine are lifted, and then we will be, by April, would travel to Gaza for another surgical mission. But despite the restrictions and challenges we face, like I've shared with you, our work is continuing, be it if we're not physically traveling to these places, we are physically still on the ground, working with our partners inside Palestine, inside Sudan, inside Sri Lanka, inside Gambia, and the numerous countries we are in doing this work. But it's the donations, it's the donors, it's the $1, $5, $10, $100 that you make forth to us. All of us are volunteers. We travel on our own dime. This is the commitment we have at IMANA. And our overheads are extremely low to truly make a difference. And you saw Gufran's video, that, her life has been changed. And we ask each and every one of you to be part of change, to be part of another Gufran's life, and give her the ability to live life to her fullest capability. Again, text to 44321. You can go to imana.org and make a donation. Anyone who's interested in traveling and doing a medical mission, go to www.imana.org. Look at our missions. We are registering for missions for the upcoming year, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to carry those out. Our work continues, and we thank each and every one of you for your support. In closing, I wanted to thank Mirna for joining us live from Ramallah at like 2 a.m. Inshallah, I'll be back in Palestine sometime soon, and myself and my team would love to meet with you and have you cook for us and enjoy some other dishes, because one of my memories in Ramallah is the favorite ice cream place, the Rukab's, down the street from the hotel we stay at. So I'm looking forward to returning to Ramallah and the West Bank, and hopefully, inshallah, we can meet in person. I wanted to thank Nabil, Dr. Safdar, our president, for hosting this, our staff behind the scenes at IMANA. We've traveled in the last 3 to 4 weeks. We've traveled to Sudan virtually. We've traveled to Syria, and now we're traveled to Palestine, learning about dishes, learning about different ethnic foods, and tying it in to the humanity and the healing that we carry out at IMANA. So thank you, everyone. Blessings, and we look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Looking forward for you to joining us. Looking forward for your support to continue the work to make a difference in the lives of people like Gufran. Thank you so much.